What's up, fish keepers? It's your boy, Duck Dynasty, and today I'm going to show you how I build a shrimp breeding tank. And not only is this a shrimp breeding tank, if they're breeding at high numbers, they're probably very happy. So, shrimp breeding tank, shrimp happy tank. Let's go. I'm going to be focusing on the Neocaridina Davidi shrimp, aka Dwarf shrimp, cherry shrimp, blue dream shrimp, anything you want shrimp. Those seem to be the most compatible with most tap water scenarios here in the US. This tank will also work for an Amano shrimp, but that's only because those shrimp can survive in an underwater dumpster. It's very interesting to me that if you breed orange shrimp and you breed green shrimp, these are two completely different markets. The people that want orange dwarf shrimp are not the same people that want green dwarf shrimp. So it's just amazing that you could just take a color, split up the market with that. They're the powerhouse to my fish room. I do like to do the 10 gallons if I go to a 20 gallon, and that's the one I'm going to show you today. That gives you the most surface area. It gives you the most surface area on the bottom. So I like to just put crushed coral as my first layer on the bottom of my shrimp breeding tank. So you got your pile. I used to put like a cup per 10 gallons. Now I just eyeball it. It disintegrates after a few years and you might have to replenish your tank if you're doing the gravel or lava rock. I haven't found a substrate that shrimp hate. They like everything, including glass bottoms for me. Could probably give credit to my tap water. Regardless, I would put the crushed coral in one of those mesh bags with the plastic zipper. I don't know how fast that plastic disintegrates, so maybe that's not the right answer either. And then I would bury that under the gravel, because when I had it above the gravel, shrimp would actually go in there. When they were very small, they would fit in the hole and they would live their entire life inside that bag. And I'd pull out the bag and there'd be full-size pregnant shrimp in there, but I'd have to open the bag and then the crushed coral would wiggle itself out. Maybe if you put them under the gravel and it was dark gravel, you could keep the crushed coral from flinging up and putting white spots all over your black gravel. Otherwise, just put it right under the sand. I put it in the opposite corner that I know I'm going to blast the water with. All of my tanks, the front top right area, I like to get sand, just regular play sand from Home Depot or Lowe's. Right now, Home Depot kind of has, it's white sand, but it has like an orange tint to it. It has kind of like a clay tint to it. And then Lowe's has this stark white play sand of shells. Both of them are fine. That black diamond sand that they're always talking about is over there at the tractor shop. I've heard someone say that you need a magnet to kind of trace over it to pull metal shards out of there. Who knows if that's true? Everyone swears by rinsing the sand. I do not rinse my sand, so maybe that's not even a thing. And this 20-gallon long easily swallows about 50 pounds of sand. Almost the whole bag. If you've seen all my tanks, you've seen plenty of tanks with black sand substrate, and that was store-bought aquarium sand. My first 1 or 2 fish tanks that I set up, paid plenty of money for that. How embarrassing for me, right? All of my tanks, the front top right area is the area where I hook that python hook and I blast the water straight down. If I design every tank the same way in regards to how I'm going to do water changes, I could do the water changes quicker. On the dirt tanks that were sand capped, I can't really blast the sand away, so I pile a bunch of large rocks where I think sand could get disturbed, and that holds everything together. With just the plain sand substrate and nothing under it, I do just like to blast the sand to kind of make a crater, because the shrimp have field day. As soon as you do a water change, they all gather to that corner, and all the uncovered debris that's been kicked up, they love to eat it. So that's how I roll so far. If you can ensure that you're not going to move the substrate, they will create a culture. They dig little tunnels like ants, and that's pretty cool. So maybe I'm taking the wrong step by just blowing the substrate around. But I always do it in the same place. I try not to disturb anything else. And then the whole tank is basically prepared to get blasted right there. Now, when you first put sand in, all the debris gets blown around. I let gravity do its job. I let the filter do its job. This would be the one time in which a clarifying product would work. I have Fritz tank clarifiers somewhere And I think how that works is it puts a coating on any kind of debris and makes it heavier and sinks to the bottom. Most of the time you don't want to mess with that, because anytime you have a cloudy tank, it's probably a bacteria bloom. And if it's not a bacteria bloom, it's probably an algae bloom, in which this clarifier is not going to work. I don't even use the clarifier though. I just let the filter run, I sit back and I relax. Rinsing sand is something I'm never going to do, no matter how much they suggest it on Facebook. But I am going to talk about inert substrate, because when I drop shrimp into tanks with inert substrate, it seems I immediately get spawns all over the place, and there's too many shrimp to count. It becomes a population that you feel the need to manage in the form of culling, in the form of selling extra ones. I have not seen huge advantages with shrimp specialty substrate. I could be wrong with that. I have seen a difference with how the shrimp work in dirt tanks. I've noticed the shrimp are getting really big in my dirt tanks, and while they're breeding slowly, and it seems to take a ridiculously long time for my dirt tanks to settle, start getting filtered properly through the aquatic plants in there, I just can't get over my large yellow shrimp that will literally drop on top of a female guppy. I don't even know what they do. They make a scary face to get her away from their pellets. They will get so big that they compete directly, physically, for the food that you pop in there with the guppies. And so I've only seen that in a dirt tank. Probably need to just test those head to head. Same tank, same shrimp. Get that dirt tank marinated for 9 months with the plants, or even a year with the plants before I dump shrimp in there, and then just see how large they get. Very robust populations have happened to me with those little tiny lava rocks. I would say get different types of substrate just so you don't get bored looking at it. Darker colored shrimp probably get along better in darker substrate, lighter shrimp and lighter substrate. I don't think they care that much if you don't have fish swimming in there that they think could be predators, whether the fish decide to prey on them or not. I like sponge filters. Sponge filters are great for these creatures. The coarse sponge filters are going to house a bunch of little babies. They'll just stay in there, and they seem to stay in there for a good while. The fine sponge filters are my favorite. They keep the water clear at a slightly different rate than the coarse grain sponges, and then they act like a food capsule for all of your shrimp as well. Of course, another point of nuance, I use pretty big filters, probably twice the size as needed. I like the food surface area. This filter actually poked out of the water to the point where the surface is still enough for mosquito larvae to come in. So basically, a few starter shrimp in here, and I have mosquito larvae who want to put me in the food chain. So I think I am going to grab a few yellow tiger antler females and stick them in this tank, just so Mr. Mosquito doesn't come and bop me on the head in my sleep. So please excuse me as I go back and forth as to whether to keep the fish with the shrimp or not to keep the fish with the shrimp. In circumstances where you have so many shrimp that you're having to split the population in half and the population isn't as important, the second population hanging out with the antlers or the guppies will be fine. Shrimp don't affect the fish as far as breeding. So if you're just after the fish and the shrimp are secondary, I guess it shouldn't matter, but everyone should experience a shrimp-only tank. It's a good thing. Apparently, if mosquitoes don't lay eggs in there. I always do a piece of wood. There's a film that grows on that wood. The shrimp appreciate it. I put crushed coral in there to up the KH and to up the GH. It raises the pH. The wood is going to lower the pH. So there's something to be said there. Just know that's going on. I've seen people put tons of wood in their tank and their pH drop below 6, and you don't want it below 6. Things start getting weird on you. Pothos will start becoming toxic. When the pH gets too off balance, I think the KH is going to lower, and then it's going to swing the pH ferociously, and it's probably going to kill off some of the bacteria. It's just, I try to go middle of the street. So that's why the wood's bringing the pH down and the crushed coral's bringing the pH up. So that about sums it up. Tank, coral, sand, wood, filter, heater, and light. I didn't mention before, but you can see it. They could probably be in tanks at room temperature, but I just like having that little bit of control. Sometimes if water gets cloudy and it's a bacteria bloom, it's because the temperature is fluctuating in a way that's making that bacteria bloom. Keeping it steady will keep the water clear. Home Depot must just have really fine sand because this batch is dusty. but I'm gonna wait a little longer. I did squeeze an old sponge filter into this tank, so it is close to being instantly cycled. I'm sure a few snails dropped in there. We'll see. If it's not clear in 7 days, I'll hit it with the clarifier. Most sand sinks. Most dust settles. This one is milky. Gone back and forth to how much I like to let these tanks sit. I like a month. I'm sure that's painful for some people who have one fish tank. But if you have 40 fish tanks, waiting a month is a kindness. It's being nice to yourself. Get a nice coat of algae on there. I always tend to run into an issue where I want to use 1 or 2 plants because I don't want to watch the plants compete with each other. I don't want to have to beat one back in the name of the other one. But I think floaters are a very good thing for shrimp. It gives them twice the imagination when they're traveling. You'll see an entire world of them just hanging upside down on the floaters, and then the entire world of them just hanging out on the bottom. There's a lot of different options for floaters, 8 different water spangles, all with different kind of slightly variable light requirements. The easiest one is the most common one, and that's this stuff right here. I've got it everywhere. Just something moving in here, that'd be my luck. Dragonfly nymph bit me. You know dragonflies will bite you if you corner them? Anyways, you know, maybe just one plant and one moss, or just one plant. Buying a $5 little sprig or an $8 little sprig seems more advantageous until I find out the plant likes me. Spend like money on like a $50 pack of the same plants because I never know which is going to work. Some of these tanks, I do have plenty of one type of plant that I can move over so I can instantly see the tank, instantly have it filtering out. The more plants in there, the less water changes. I imagine if you have inert substrate and you have slow growing plants, that water change is going to hit you every 2 weeks. If you want to speed up breeding, you'd probably water change every 2 weeks to a month. But for me, these guys have a real low bioload. And if you can get a plant that'll eat what they're chuffing off, you're in a good position. Not necessary. I can grow these in a clear tub with nothing in it but an air pump. If you're having trouble breeding these, check the roommates, check your pH, get the temperature at 74. They're going to breed at a higher rate at a higher temperature, but I think you're risking fungus. Just keep it at 74, which is a little chilly for guppies, but they'd bother the females a little less. Your females will get bigger. If you go no fish roommates, it'll be a little Garden of Eden for these shrimp. It'll be a little Babylon for these shrimp. I always wondered if you got really timid fish, like maybe fish with a sucker mouth and a small pleco. Plecos are not timid. Or, you know, a group of autos, they probably wouldn't bother the shrimp too much, but I imagine that sucker mouth can kind of descend on a baby shrimp just like a UFO, suck them right out of the gravel. Shrimp are slower eaters than fish, but they are faster eaters than snails. So the snails won't compete very much with the shrimp, but if you were to be strategic, maybe you would put one type of snail in there and you would use it as a Malaysian trumpet snail breeding tank alongside your yellow dwarf shrimp breeding tank, or whatever color you choose. I will go on record to say that even the fish that get along with the Neocaridina, and that's what I'm talking about, Neocaridina Davidi, even timid fish that go on record as not eating those shrimp, they do aggravate the shrimp. I see completely different behavior in dwarf shrimp that have their own tank versus dwarf shrimp that have fish roommates. So if you're doing shrimp breeding, I would really consider keeping the fish out. And it is tempting. It is certainly tempting with my first 20 tanks. I was like, I'm going to do a snail. I'm going to do one plant. I'm going to do one type of shrimp and then one type of fish. And these are all going to perform at different niches. They all eat at different rates. And that does work great for a while. I think eventually the fish population gets so big that the shrimp population starts getting food denied. And then you can move to Bacter AE, and it's a powder. It promotes a film, kind of a bacterial growth on all surfaces of the tank. And that's something that the fish are going to have a hard time eating, but the shrimp are good slurping that up. That'll buy you some time. But if you're dealing with the thick populations that I was able to produce, one does start annoying the other. And the solution is always more fish tanks. That is always my solution. Get yourself another fish tank. Your spouse will love it.
I brushed up against food and consumables, so I guess I'll complete that. I do add equilibrium to the tank. I used to do calcium carbonate powder because that was easy, cheap, it was for human consumption. Before that, I went through a phase where I used Tums to get these guys calcium. I used to dry out eggshells and then grind those up. And let me tell you, you're basically working for pennies. It sucks. This could be harsh. If you had not a lot of tanks, maybe it's not a big deal. At 10 tanks, this can be excruciating. So the equilibrium disperses in the tank the quickest. I have the most luck with it. It's a turnkey solution, one of those things that I just bought in bulk and haven't thought about since. It's potash, so the plants get potassium off of it. If you were going to be a real sustainable boss, you would just find rocks with calcium, and then the shrimp could just eat off of that calcium. My water comes out the tap at about 200 or 300 ppm. These dwarf shrimp, the Neocaridina, want it between 300 and 600. So there's room for improvement with my water. The live bearers also want hard water. The snails want hard water. So that works out. You want some KH, you want some GH. That's what I'm talking about when I say ppm. The test strips work fine. I'm going to make a whole video on this. You do not need exact numbers. When push comes to shove, and maybe with multiple tanks, test strips are the way to go. I like to feed different types of food, and it seems like the only thing that I can get to my shrimp are those pellets that takes fish a little bit longer to eat, and then of course Bacter AE. You can get your shrimp a little food dome. If I blast the tank good enough with fish food, then the shrimp will also be able to get that, especially the Tetra granules. I know that I said a month, but I'm going to go ahead and put the green shrimp in now. I don't want it to continue being a month in between uploads, you know what I mean? We'll make up for it with some tank grunge from other established tanks. It has been 7 days. I did give a dirty sponge a good honk in this water. There's pre-seasoned wood in it. We're gonna put this big ball of algae. I always like moss or algae. If you don't have moss, get algae. I'm not sure if the shrimp can tell the difference. Algae has stabilizing properties. I can lure these green shrimp in with some shrimp pellets, but those rice fish have a hungry hippo look in their eyes. And I just want to grab 10 to 12 shrimp with as few swoops as possible. I'm going to use this snail trap, and I like it because you put it in the water and the fish are pretty confused by it and the shrimp are confused by it, but they all come and congregate and give a good look at it. If I were to use pellets, they would be battling for the pellet, and I'd have to break it up with the net, grab some shrimp. There'd be panicking fish in my net. We'll go this way. And of course, we caught a couple that are less than ideal. I'm going to make a green shrimp coal tank, and we'll just see what mutations come out of the green colony. These were classified as green jade shrimp. I'm a little worried that some of them are blue. They shouldn't be stressed, and this is just a sign of stress. That dirt tank has a lot of decomposing material, and I watched the pH recently shoot up to 8. I'm throwing wood in there like a maniac, and maybe that's why they're going blue. You want to get this under 7, closer to 6.5, but off they go. And it looks like this little guy is tangled. Well, if I was stuck somewhere, I'd rather be stuck in my own food, like a big old house-sized ball of your very own green cotton candy. So there's that.
Dwarf shrimp are like Pringles. You can't just have one type. If you have one tank, you're going to want a second tank, at least to hold the coals and the mutations. You're going to see clear ones come out. You're going to see different patterns. I had a blue jelly dwarf shrimp, and every once in a while, a large female that would come out that would have this red painted face, and no other ones would look like that. That's just fun. So if you get 2 with that little red face, maybe you can produce another strain and win the lottery and have your name go down in infamy. And in 200 years, when they're looking at that red masked little shrimp, they're going to see this was Brenton's fish, and he meant shrimp business. So yeah, you definitely want to go through your tank all the time. You want to always keep your eyes out for mutations, for ones that are less desirable. If you have 5 different color shrimp and there's a yellow that's not so hot and a green that's not so hot, maybe the colors are getting a little dull, you can put that in your Skittle tank and that's fun to watch as well. I've done this 4 or 5 times, and I am going to go on the record to say you will see browns. You will see wild ones. They will revert. They will always pull towards brown. If you are not culling, they will pull towards brown. If you do a Skittle tank and you have tons of Skittle shrimp, and let's say you go online and you say, Skittle shrimp, come and buy them now.
Oysters, clams, and cockles!
And you get some buyers for those Skittle shrimp, you're going to pull out the most colorful immediately, right? So you pull out the most colorful and you leave maybe the duller colors. And every time you get an order, you're going to try to find every color so they're getting that Skittle mix. What that's going to do is it's going to speed up this pull towards the brown wild ones. When you start grabbing the best ones, they are going to turn brown. If it takes 5 years, they're going to turn brown. If you're selling out of them and your listings are doing really hot and those shrimp are moving 10 or 20 at a time, it's going to be brown in 2 years. You get lots of fun colors, you do get lots of fun mutations, but Mother Nature is always calling. You know, I guess choosing the most colorful ones to sell so you're not embarrassed and you leave the brown ones, that's a form of selection too. It's not natural selection, it's your selection, but that speeds up the process towards brown, and that's fine. Brown shrimp are great. They perform the same duty that snails do and scuds do. They will clean up your tank. If you don't find a dead fish right away, they'll find it and they won't let your water rot. So they're helpful. They've got a low bioload. If you're chasing the rainbow and you want the colors, just keep it in mind. I'm thinking in any circumstance, if you want a straight arrow of just really bright colors, there's always going to be culling. And culling just means pulling them out. It doesn't mean pulling them out and throwing them in a fish mouth. You could pull them out and you could just have a brown wild tank and then a tank over here. And I imagine if you pulled all your browns out and you put them in a separate tank, they would have babies every once in a while that were different colors that you could reintroduce to your color tank. It's your choice. Just know that the browns are down. The wild types are always going to be in the child types. I probably avoid a lot of heartache by using my aged water trash can, and it runs just like a fish tank, even has snails in it. And then when I'm ready, I pull that water right out of the trash can. The pothos is feeding on it. The nitrates are down, even though the nitrates are up when they come out of my tap water. Thanks, Florida. If you want to fail the quickest at shrimp breeding, I would say house them with scuds. Cut your population in half. Have them compete for the same food. Hey. When shrimp come in, you can immediately feed them. So that's it. Shrimp breeding tank. I'm in a place where I have to build these. They're all going to look very similar. You can use any substrate you want. This has been another episode of Brenton's Fish. Until next time, fish keepers. Until next time.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
Please join us. Please join us. Please join us.
Join us.